to the road to retirement. My name's Chris Anselmo of Brookside Tax and Financial Group, and today we have Tony 1 and Tony 2, Tony Squared, and we have some good announcements. It's now, believe it or not, I think it's spring here in Cleveland, Ohio, but
finally.
I don't know. I'm still wearing a sweater.
I came back. So after tax season, I went to Florida for about 10 days. So I've been back since Saturday, and it's now Thursday, and I haven't seen the sun yet, but other than that, it's been raining every day. So it's probably similar in Minnesota, still a little cool up there.
Same exact situation. A couple of weeks ago, we hit the 80s, and then it dropped way back down, got cold, and it's been cool and rainy ever since. But today, we're supposed to hit 74 and sunny. Beautiful day.
Wow. Yeah. Where's that for us?
So we have, it's after tax season. We haven't done this in a while, and we have several announcements. Primarily, the first and the biggest one is Mr. Tony Marlette Jr. is now a papa.
Oh, baby boy number one. My wife Megan and I welcomed Samuel Anthony Marlette into the world the day before tax day.
I know, April 14th.
April 14th.
So, wow, you couldn't have planned that better for Brookside Tax.
Yeah, Chris,
took a day off.
Pretty happy. He said, take the 14th off. You're back in here on the 15th. They kept telling me, you better get through tax season, and we almost made it.
Yeah.
I was a day short, so
it was all good. Yeah. So Tony, tell him when we first hired you what I told him I like in employees.
He likes employees with kids and debt.
I want kids and mortgages.
They don't go anywhere.
I need people who have kids and mortgages, so they have to work. So
that is funny.
I mean, in today's day and age, that's probably true, right? Because if you have no kids and no responsibilities, you have a bad day, you might not show up tomorrow. So
or you might move around.
There's never a bad day here, though. So
when you're young and single,
after that first tax day of 2022, I might not have showed up after that. No.
Yeah, so that was funny. Yeah, that first tax day last year, he was just starting to become a tax preparer. He says, "Well, it's been nice knowing you. See ya."
See ya. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah,
walked out the door and pretended I was never coming back.
So it's all good. So we got a little Bambino now. And another news is we got another book. You can see that. Yep.
How to protect your family's assets from devastating nursing home costs.
That's specific to Ohio. I like that.
Yeah. So this is the Ohio-based version. So we actually just got them in the mail yesterday. They're a little more expensive. They literally cost us $25 a book to get. So
did you write that one, Chris?
I helped write it. So, and Matt, our other attorney here that does our elder care, he helped write it. And there's a gentleman, Gabriel, that does the bulk of it, and then we edit it for Ohio. So, it's good, but it's almost 300 pages long. So it's really
that's a solid book right there.
Yeah, it's really like a manual, hopefully written in English, about how to protect your assets and how to qualify for Medicaid, and we've talked about this on the shows, how ridiculous it is that the government doesn't help pay for nursing homes, but
maybe we should talk about that on this one, because what I was going to we got some feedback from clients when we were doing taxes about topics that they want to hear about. Amongst them was nursing home costs.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's always a great topic, and I've hit you up, Chris, a lot for advice with my grandfather passing away and my mom being in a nursing home, and my dad inheriting my grandpa's farm, but not being able to maybe hang on to it because my mom has been in a nursing home and the state's been paying for it. So
it's just so it's a federal program, but it's also state run. So the state administers the program. And it's kind of ridiculous that each state has its own rules, and sometimes each county has their own rules. And depending on the caseworker you get, who may or may not know the rules, so it's really all over the board. But I think the sad fact, and we've talked about this on other shows, is that the government will spend money going to Mars, billions and billions of dollars. But
Oh yeah.
but they won't help people in nurse. I mean,
So
the biggest crux for me is, Medicare, the regular standard health insurance for everyone who's retired or if disabled. You only get up to 100 days in a nursing home. So the person who gets his first paycheck at 15, and God forbid he becomes disabled, he gets 100 days in a nursing home. The guy who's 85 that's been paying in for 70 years, been paying into Medicare every year for 70 years, only gets 100 days, up to 100 days.
Up to, and not guaranteed
No.
either. It has to happen in a certain way. You have to be in the hospital or have something like that happen, and then
you have to
refer you.
And you have to not be getting better. I mean, so if you're getting better, they'll give you up to 100. So like if you injure your hip and you need to get your hip fixed, replaced, whatever, you're going to get better in 100 days. So they'll cover it. You're getting better. But if you had dementia on day 3 and they said, look, you're never getting better, they cut you off. I mean, it's crazy. So, so the regular Medicare, something's obviously needs to change. Maybe somebody in Congress is watching our show, but
I wish they would.
I mean, the fact that somebody could pay into a healthcare system for 70 years and not have coverage is, I mean, I have one lady going in now, she's 91. So literally she's been paying in for 80 years, 75 years, whatever it is. Yeah. And you don't have coverage. I mean, it's criminal.
It is frustrating. And normally I know we wouldn't, advocate for more government programs or spending, but it's how they spend, and they need to cut spending in other areas and focus on where it's needed. I think they need to do more.
I was literally just going to say that, because you're right. I was literally just thinking that, because there's a fair amount of people out there, a lot of people, the majority of people do a fair amount of complaining about government spending. So for us to come and say, well, the government needs to spend more money on this program, it sounds hypocritical, but at the same time, like you guys have both pointed out, I think it's worth it to mention that we're not saying to spend more. We're saying to spend the money wiser on things that real people actually need.
I mean,
and how about the first two things, seniors and veterans in this country, the VA system and covering long-term care? Those should be two priorities in our country now.
Every time I see one of those Wounded Warriors show, it just frustrates me. I'm like, how do they need this? Shouldn't the government just provide this? I mean,
yes.
Yes. So all these charities or whatever you want to call them, nonprofits that show up, part of that donation is going to go to the expense of running the charity.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how much actually gets to the veteran, but still, I'm not saying you shouldn't contribute to these, but I'm like, they shouldn't need to. The government should take care of our veterans. I mean,
well, for sure, if you take care of one group of people, it should be veterans.
Yeah, it's just, and I think everybody says it, but I don't understand how Congress doesn't do it. Maybe they're not getting.
Yeah, and nursing home is that book is just wow. It couldn't come at a better time, because I see that as, we have a lot of crisis in the country and things that need to be dealt with, but that's got to be top 5. Well, I think that's one of the biggest crises facing Americans in the United States.
Yeah, because people don't realize that, we got these statistics from, I don't want to say somewhere online, but from an insurance carrier, that 2 out of 3 people, 2 out of 3 over 70 will spend time in a nursing home. That's why insurance companies
it's over 70%.
I mean, the insurance companies can't take that risk. Like you insure 1 million houses and 2 of them burn down. Okay, we could take that risk. But you insure 3 people and 2 of them make claims. It's not working for the insurance company. So they're trying to get out of that industry. So it's really, and then there's the comments we hear from other people. Well, why should the government pay if you have money? I'm like, well, look, nobody has a problem with people trying to pay the least amount of taxes they can, right?
Right.
If you owe 20 grand in taxes at the end of the year, you don't send in 40.
Yeah.
You send in 20, right? So how is this any different to try and pay the least you can legally?
Everybody's trying to pay as least as, we have people.
Every technique in this,
we have people that hardly, that collect pension and social security that want to save money on taxes.
So,
it's not just
every technique in this book is legal. We're not trying to hide money. We're not trying to, put in other people's names and all, it's just every technique is legal, and we're just doing what the law allows. So if the law allows it, why can't you do it? Right. So if they don't want it to be handled that way, then they could change the law. Right. So, and they have changed it over the years. I mean, when we first started this, that look back period that we talked about before, a lot of people know it's 60 months. It used to be 24 months. Then it was 30, then it was 36. Now it's 60. There's talk of making it 72, but it's just, I don't want to say it's criminal, but the way the government spends money, this should be a top priority. And it's not.
Agreed.
Even if they have to raise the Medicare, a lot of Medicare comes in from our paychecks, right? So even if they have to raise the limit on how much you pay into Medicare, I'm okay with that.
Agreed.
I think a lot of people are, and I think the same issue can be said for Social Security. You top out Social Security when they take out Social Security, they don't do it above income above 147. I think of all the things that the government spends money on, I don't think people would have a problem with funding Social Security.
So
after $147,000
right.
in income.
I think they're going to increase that. So that's how they're going to keep it solvent past the year 2030.
Maybe it's maybe a cap it at 500, whatever the number is. I mean, there has to be some type. Here's the counter argument to people who are making a lot of money. Say you're a professional athlete, you're making $20 million, right? Look, why should I pay in on $20 million? Social Security at the maximum is going to give me this much. And let's say at the maximum you're going to get is $4,000 a month when you retire. If I keep paying more in, I'm not getting any more. Why should I have to pay more in? Right. So that's the counter argument.
Yeah,
so
that's the argument. But
I think there should be some reasonable cap. Like, let me give you some stats. So we get a newsletter. I don't know if you can see this. We get a tax newsletter, I think it's every month, that tells us what's going on. So this is from the IRS statistics from 2020. It says the tax burden on higher income payers rose sharply in 2020. So, we hear a lot about the wealthy aren't paying enough. They should pay more. They should pay their fair share. Let me give you these statistics and it'll blow your mind. The top 1% of taxpayers are people who make $548,000 or more, which is significant, right? Pay 42.31% of all the taxes collected.
So it's the top 1% paying 42%.
And the top 5%, which I thought was, so it's for people who make adjusted gross income of $220,000 or more. I wouldn't think that would be top 5%, but I guess that is.
Well, the top 10%.
Yeah.
So only, I don't want to say only, but it's 150. There's a lot of people out there that are quote unquote 10%ers that
so the top
living the high life.
Right. As Tony said, the top 10% are people with AGIs of 152 or more, 152,000 or more, which I thought it would have been higher. I thought it'd been like 400 grand, but they paid 73.67% of all the taxes collected. Mm-hmm. So the bottom 50 pay 2%. But the bottom 50 are telling the top 10, you're not paying enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the general public sees these stats. They believe the top 10 are paying nothing. The top 10 are paying almost 75% of all the money that comes into the government. So
how much of it does it say there? How much, what percentage? Last I heard, 48% of the population paid zero.
Yeah, this just says that the bottom 50 pays 2%. So I heard that
48%, something like that. It was 2020 or 2017 maybe. Yeah, 48% paid zero. So you're right. I mean, it's clearly it's already a top heavy system.
Yeah, I think everyone, like you say, I've saw some congressional hearings just recently, like paying your fair share, and the guys argue like, well, what's fair? There's a guy who makes $1 million. How much more does he have to pay to live in this country than people are paying nothing? I mean, I don't know what the solution is. Personally, I think it should just be a national sales tax and have some exemptions for food and housing and maybe a car, so you don't necessarily hurt people on the lower tax levels. But for half the country pay nothing doesn't seem fair. And for the 10% to pay 75% of it doesn't seem fair. So I don't know what the fair solution is, but that's what we're faced with right now. So, and that's not even counting. That's just income tax.
Right.
That's not counting the Medicare taxes,
State.
Social Security taxes. So, but maybe what we were talking about before with nursing homes, maybe we just have to increase that Medicare limit and the Social Security limit to keep funding it. I think people will be okay with that. So, but things are costing more too. So
yeah, that's true. Now, Chris, before we move on, the book you showed, what is the title? And how can our listeners purchase a copy? Can they get it on Amazon.com?
I don't know if we have it on Amazon yet. I mean, we literally just got this in yesterday, or 2 days ago.
What's the title?
It's called How to Protect Your Family's Assets from Devastating Nursing Home Costs. So
Medicaid Secrets.
Medicaid Secrets.
Again, you mentioned a lot of these things are everything in there is legal. A lot of these things people don't know about, and they're steps that people can take to protect. We've seen it.
Yeah, we haven't decided what we're going to do on, the retail price is $49, but I know it costs us like $25 or $26 our cost to get it in. So I don't know what we're going to do yet. I'm thinking of making people pay something, and maybe we could donate it to our charity that we have to help underprivileged families. So we haven't decided yet, but maybe, I don't want, we have a lot of books out there that didn't cost us this much to produce, and we let people take them at random, and then unfortunately people are taking them, but a lot of them people just like fill up their grocery bag, right? and they're probably never going to read them. So we might put some type of sticker on this so that we can at least I want to make sure they're serious about it. They're not going to just like take the book because it's free,
Right.
So it's there's a lot of stuff you can do, even if you're not. So the 5-year plan's obviously the best, right? So we could protect the most assets that way. But if you're short of 5 years, there's something we call crisis planning, where Matt helps do most of that work. There is still stuff we can do to help save the money. We might not be able to save as much as you could if you made it 5 years, but maybe we could save half, right? But a lot of people don't know this, and it's not out. You're not going to see this on TV. So a lot of times people come in and say, I went through that with my mother, who's the grandmother now, and we spent $200,000 on a nursing home. And I'm like, well, came and talked to us. Maybe we could have saved half of it, right? So, wow. But it just, again, nobody ever thinks they're going to go to a nursing home.
Yeah, which is weird because people who, once you reach 65, there's almost a 75%. It's over 7%.
Yeah. Look, you're right. The older you live, the more likely you're going to go to a nursing home.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A generation ago, like what happened to my dad, and we talked about this a little bit on other shows. My dad had 7. There was 8 of them, 7 brothers and sisters. I think 6 of them dropped dead of heart attacks. So my dad never expected he would ever go to a nursing home. He's just going to drop dead like the rest of his brothers and sisters. But sure enough, he got Lewy body's disease, which is kind of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And it was just a freak thing that, he was fine at home and my mother would take care of him. And it wasn't until the very end where unexpectedly my mom needed a knee replacement, and she couldn't watch my dad anymore. So he ended up going to a nursing home. But we spent $95,000 in 7 months.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And $95,000, my dad sold produce for a living. So to save $95,000.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, this is the 70s and 80s. But look at my dad.
And that's only if you needed a few months. What if my mom has Parkinson's very bad, and she's been in over a year now.
Yeah, I have.
And it costs anywhere from $6,000 to over $12,000 a month. Where's that money going to come from?
One of my aunts, who just recently passed away last year, she was in for 12 years. Oh, luckily we got her on Medicaid, but
Yeah.
12 years, if you had the money and you didn't do the planning, that could be $1 million.
Yep.
Right. So if you want a copy of the book, call our office. Tony's probably got a little.
There you
look
go.
at that.
I was waiting for it. I got to serve my purpose here.
All right. So, Tony, what were some of the other topics that people talked about besides?
So we had the most common one was RMD options. We had IRA and Roth withdrawal strategy, student loan forgiveness, which we talked a little bit about in the Secure Act 2.0 webinar.
That's hot and
Contentious topic.
Contentious topic, right?
Yeah.
Because those of us who signed on the dotted line and paid off our loans aren't happy with people who could just get free money like that. But I think for us,
the difference is, Chris, you paid about 1/100th of the cost that for your schooling that my kids are paying for theirs. That's the difference.
Well,
right?
then the culprit becomes the rising cost of the education.
Yeah.
My 2 kids are through college, so I
Yeah.
paid theirs too. So
Right.
So,
but it goes up exponentially every single
Well,
year.
no, and it doesn't. It's not.
It's
when
not real.
inflation was 2%, the cost of college is going up 8%. That's where you need to attack
every year.
the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And some colleges went up a few years ago. There was a year where they went up 10 to 20%.
My
So
concern would be if we do this where everybody gets forgiven. The universities can charge whatever they want. They're not accountable to anybody. Nobody's going to complain.
Somebody's got to pay the university, right? So is it
Right.
the lenders? Who is it? So, but how about the RMD one? The RMD one's been kind of confusing because they keep, which each act that comes through, they keep changing the dates and it was, for a long time it was 70 and a half, then it went to 72, now it's 73. And then it came out with new rules about whether or not, if you inherit the IRA, was the participant already taking RMDs or not taking RMDs? So it's getting really confusing.
Yeah, and they're going to keep changing them too.
Yeah,
it's going to
the new rule that came out previous to the last iteration said, look, if you inherited IRA, we're changing it that you have to take it out within 10 years.
Right.
And when they came out, it said, look, we don't care how you take it out as long as the account's empty in 10 years. But now they changed it to it's based on whether or not the participant had already been taking RMDs. And if they were, you're going to have to take RMDs. I mean,
it's really unclear on the inherited IRA now, because what I've been doing is just telling people take it every year anyway. So first of all, you don't get hit in year 10 with all that tax.
Because
and then second of all, so you don't get penalized, assuming they change the.
So the new rule that you have to start taking RMDs, the RMD amount they're telling you to take is not going to empty the account in 10 years. So you're still going to have to get it out in 10 years. So it's, I don't know who writes. I don't know who's sitting in the back room with no windows writing these things.
And no oxygen in the room because the decisions they're making aren't too good.
I mean, I think the tax code's getting longer. Last time we looked, it was 77,000 pages long.
Yeah.
Now it's probably 100,000 pages. I mean, just
every year exponentially longer.
Yeah. So RMDs are a big one. And let's tell the audience that the issue with the RMD is if you do it wrong, the penalty is 50%. That 50%, not 15
of the amount you missed.
Yeah. So if you were supposed to take out 10 grand, so you still have to take out the 10 grand to pay the tax, but you owe $5,000 penalty.
Right. So the Secure Act, if you correct it yourself in a reasonable amount of time, you don't have a penalty. The Secure Act 2.0.
Yeah.
And then it's a scale. Well, I think it's basically if you correct it yourself before they catch it.
Yeah. Well, we've had
if they catch it and you correct it in a reasonable amount of time. I read in the Secure Act, it's still a 10% penalty.
Yeah. So we had
is that with the 10% still?
So we've had a couple situations where people have missed it, and personally, what I've done is I actually put it on their tax return and taxed it as if they got it. Then the IRS is like, okay, you paid the tax. We still got to get the money out, but at least we gave them the tax money, and then we'll figure out how to get the money out in the following year. Because I think what happens for a lot of clients, why it's confused, we try to do it systematically. So if you have three or four IRA accounts, we have it taken out systematically, automatically out of each account. A lot of clients, not a lot, but there's several clients that say, well, account number one's paying 5%, account number two is paying 2%. We should probably take it out of account number two. And they want to take it all out of account number. And then sure enough, somebody's going to mess up a calculation somewhere. So we found it over the years, it's easier just to have it systematically taken out of each account so that you don't, because the penalty's so big that it doesn't matter if you're taking out a 5% account or 2% account. Because if you miss it, you're going to pay more penalty than the interest you're earning. So
yeah, we should take a separate episode for these. So we had RMD options, IRA, Roth IRA withdrawals, student loan, nursing home, which we just talked about, trust fund, Social Security choices, and then tax reduction.
Okay. Well,
so those were our top.
Yeah, we're almost out of time already. So 25 minutes in, 26 minutes in already. So
yeah.
So welcome back. It's been a while. I don't think I've done any of these in this year.
It's been since before.
I mean, I didn't even know how to plug in my microphone.
Before tax season for sure. January, February.
Tony, Tony Shore probably does 10 of these a day. So
I do 6 to 8 shows a day. Yeah. But Tony Marlette, congratulations on becoming a father for the first time, and say hi to Samuel for us, and try to get some sleep.
I will. Last night
he comes to the office to get sleep. I see the light go off in his office.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yep, that'll happen.
So how's mom?
She's doing well. Every day it seems like, she's getting better. We have a good support system with our families. I don't know how people raise kids without, even if it's a mother and a father. I don't know how you do it without.
It takes a village.
It does take a village. Absolutely.
That happened to us. We were living in Florida when we had our first 2 kids, and we moved back to Cleveland to be closer to family. So
I can see why.
We did the same thing. We were living in Nashville for the first 6 years of our marriage, and then we decided, hey, we want to have kids. We actually went 6 years with no kids and had a lot of fun. But then we're like, we want kids. So we moved back to Minnesota where all our family was at. So we had some support.
Yeah. So it's all good. So as I told Tony, it's not about you anymore.
Never was.
And I love that. You're right. It never was, but it especially isn't now. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So that's all good. All right, Tony and Tony show. And
for those listening, not watching, you can reach us online at brooksidetax.com. Obviously, our YouTube channel, Brookside Financial, our Facebook page, Brookside Tax, or stop in to our office.
All right, guys. Great show today. And listeners, thanks for tuning in.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
See ya.